It is 12 noon on April the 22nd, 2024. I'd like to call to order this special meeting of the City of Las Vegas Historic Preservation Commission. This meeting is listed as special due to the fact that HPC normally meets on the fourth Wednesday of each month. However, for April, the Historic Preservation Commission's meeting was moved to today, April the 22nd, due to the City Council chambers. They are needed for this Wednesday.
Jack Levine.
Please call the roll to determine if we have a quorum.
Chair Stodel.
Present.
Vice Chair Laramie. Walking in. Commissioner Levine.
Here by telephone.
Commissioner Beck.
Present.
Commissioner Hotchkiss.
Here by telephone.
Commissioner Serfas. Commissioner Cosgrove. Here. Commissioner Palacios. Commissioner Moody.
Here.
Commissioner Perdue. Commissioner Roberts.
Here.
Commissioner Seabrandt.
Here.
Commissioner Gillespie.
Here.
Thank you. We do have a quorum.
Thank you. Move on to agenda item 2 is a public announcement confirming that this meeting was posted in compliance with the state's open meeting law. Is this meeting in compliance?
Yes, we are in compliance.
Thank you. Agenda item 3 is the initial public comment period. Public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters on the agenda for action. If you wish to be heard, come forward and give your name for the record. The amount of discussion, as well as the amount of time any single speaker is allowed, may be limited. Would anybody like to speak at this time on an agenda action item? Seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item number 4, announcement by the chair. The only announcement by the chair is in regards to today's agenda. The chair will move item 7, 24-0203-HPC1, discussion and possible action regarding the Twin Lakes Area Report. We'll move that to the 6th position on the agenda. And the current agenda item 6 is also an action item regarding the nomination for awards for Historic Preservation Month. That will be moved to the 7th position on the agenda. Agenda item number 5, this is an action item by reference to the final minutes. For possible action to approve the final minutes by reference to the regular meeting of March the 27th, 2024. Any questions or comments, corrections from the commission regarding the agenda? I just had one small one on page 2 of the minutes. Actually page 3, third paragraph, it refers to McWilliams Place. I think that should be McWilliams Town Site. Other than that, look for a motion to approve.
I move to approve the minutes for the March 27th meeting with the incorporation of the comment.
And a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and we have a second. Further discussion of the commission? General public? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Hotchkiss
Telephone?
votes aye on the phone.
Did we have a response from both members on the phone?
Commissioner Levine.
No, I'm here now. Yes, I approve. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Approval with the chair voting with those in attendance. Let's move on then to agenda item number 6. This is 24-02.
Excuse me, were you going to call forward number 7? The Twin Lakes?
Did you want to do 7 first?
I'm sorry, what I meant was this is the item that we're moving, so it's now agenda item 6.
No, you just need to call number 7 forward.
I just, then I'm going to move agenda item 7 forward. Discussion for possible action regarding approval. This is 24-0203-HPC1. Discussion for possible action regarding approval of the final report of the historic context and reconnaissance level survey of the historic resources dating from 1946 to 1982 in the Twin Lake area, generally bounded by Vegas Drive, North Rancho Drive, North Decatur Boulevard, and West Bonanza Boulevard. Dr. Seabrantz, any additional comments before we hear the presentation?
No.
All right. Welcome. This was I hope that this commission's had a chance to read this. It's a great survey, jam-packed with important and solid historical information. Today is the final draft, and I had the opportunity to go on a joyride over the weekend through most of the neighborhoods, and clearly, based on this survey, saw a lot of the neighborhoods in a different light. There were a couple of suggested changes that I submitted both to Northwind and to the Dr. Seabrant. There's some small changes, a couple of dates that needed to be I would suggest, and we can go with those in a little bit of detail after the presentation. Horty Mooney, welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair, Commission, and staff. I don't have a presentation today because the document was submitted to the State Historic Preservation Office and they had no comments. So there were no real substantive changes. I was, however, able to make the revisions that you sent recently in the last couple of days, but that's not going to be reflected in the copy that you have before you. So we'll be taking that back and tidying that up and then resubmitting to the city and the state for the final document.
Well, let me back up a little bit. At the request of the City of Las Vegas, Northwind Consulting performed a reconnaissance survey of 1,563, that would be a big one, in the 9 Twin Lakes neighborhood to determine if any structure were potential candidates for listing on either the National Register or the city's historic property register. And the bottom line, the answer is no.
Correct.
No potential candidates for the National Register or the city register in any of the 1,500 or neighborhoods. There is one other recommendation from Northwind that's found on pages 195 and 196. And that is focused on the single-family residences in the Priory subdivision. Northwind is stating at this point that the homes, quote, do not meet the 50-year age requirement for listing on the National Register of Historic Places. The recommendation from Northwind is that these buildings should be reevaluated when they reach the 50 years, both of the residence potential and of a district. And looking at the work that you did, Courtney, that they would reach the 50-year milestone in 2028. And at this point, is Northwind suggesting that we do a survey of that neighborhood in 2028?
It's just a recommendation.
Okay.
But yes. That particular Priory was interesting. There were a lot of like individual, like kind of custom homes. And Woodland also was another one that we recommended to be resurveyed when it turns 50 for National Register eligibility.
So the question that is hanging there then is the charge for Northwind was twofold, for the National Register and also for the city register.
Correct.
And the city register only requires 40 years.
Yes, there's actually, I may have had an old, when I looked up the standards again this afternoon, I noticed that in one section it says 40, another section it says 50.
Right.
But at the time when we did this, we looked at the 40-year-old cutoff, and we evaluated the properties under the city's requirements, as well as the criteria consideration G, which is the National Register criteria consideration for properties that aren't 50 years old yet, and they didn't meet that criteria either.
Okay.
So once again, I would just take another look at these two neighborhoods when they get a little bit older.
Okay, I guess where I was going is whether or not there's within the report, which is about 3 or 4 pages, 3 or 4 inches thick, whether or not we should at this point, because of the 40 years, take another look at Woodlawn and Priory at this juncture to see if they meet the city criteria. Is that a general recommendation, or is Northwind generally saying let's wait till 50?
Well, it's a general recommendation. It's best practices to just, with these types of reports, you recommend that this could be a potential location for a survey in the future. So we're not saying, this is a high priority. There are perhaps better neighborhoods that could be focused on. We're not sure, but it's just a recommendation for something to be considered in the future.
Okay. And again, the expertise is on that side of the microphone, not on this side, but I thought that the Priory neighborhood was interesting, just its design and its size. Those are my questions. Any further questions from the commission, please?
Commissioner Beck, in talking about the 40 years, I went and read, what the city says. And there seemed to almost be like there was a catch-22 in there that we really couldn't overcome to do them at 40 years. Is that true? Do you know? It just seemed that some of the requirements couldn't be met without meeting the National Register requirements.
I would defer that question to Diane Seabrant, the HPO.
Probably right.
So the question is, could it be on the local register?
At 40 years, given how it's stated for the requirements for that.
Okay, I'm sorry, I don't quite understand what you're asking. So are you saying that, so if our requirements are it has to meet the standards that it would for the National Register, but we also will accept the 40 years?
Right. Is that a conflict because it's not going to come in under consideration G?
Not necessarily a conflict, no.
So we can have one that's 40 years and meets the National Register? Is that what we're required to do for the city?
Well, it's either or. It matches the requirements to be on the National Register, or it can be meets the criteria that we have in the city.
Okay, I'll go look at it again. Thank you.
Hey.
Your mic, please.
If there are no further questions from the commission, I would look for a motion. This is the final draft. And it was submitted to SHPO, and there was no response.
Courtney Mooney, for the record. We did get a response that there were no comments.
Okay.
No suggested revisions. However, we are making the changes that you submitted a couple of days ago, and then we'll resubmit that to Diane.
Great. Okay. So the motion would be to accept this report with the necessary changes.
So moved. Commissioner Cosgrove.
Motion, we have a second.
Commissioner Modi, second.
Further discussion of the commission? General public? Hearing none, all those in favor on the telephone, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. It was great to see you, everybody.
I just wanted to say thank you for a great job.
Thank you.
It was a lot of work, and it's amazing you could, even at a reconnaissance level, you could do that many buildings. It's phenomenal. And I really like the way the relationship in there is between your, the sheets that organize the data and then the numbers on your maps. It's really easy to work with.
Oh, good. That's good
I
feedback.
sort of
Thank
woke
you.
up a little late on comments, but
Yeah, that's okay. Thank you so much.
And
You're
those
welcome.
opposed? Motion carries unanimously with the chair voted in favor, and the chair will echo the comments. It's really, there's just so much information in there, not only the neighborhoods, but of the historic Twin Lakes and the opportunities. So thank you for a great job.
Thank you.
Now we'll move to agenda item 6, which is 24-0200 HPC1, discussion and action regarding nominations for the Historic Preservation Commission's annual Historic Preservation Award. For the past 20 years, the Historic Preservation Commission has promoted the importance of historic preservation by awarding more than 100 excellent and historic preservation honors during the month of May. With the idea and the action of the city's Historic Preservation Officer, Dr. Seabrand, an awards luncheon has now been successfully added to the awards process. The actual commission guidelines for the nominations and the actual awards are limited. Initially, nominations only came from the commissioners, who in turn would read the actual nominations during the award voting and presentation. An unwritten rule has morphed over the years, and is now based on today's nomination list. Not only do the commissioners nominate, but city staff as well as the general public is offering nominations. The second element are the award categories. In 2003, the commission selected 4 areas: Bricks and Mortar Award, to include individuals and organizations that have sponsored a historic rehabilitation. The name of this award was enhanced following the passing of the former chair of the commission and a leading preservation educator and advocate, Dorothy Wright. The Bricks and Mortar Award is now the Dorothy Wright Bricks and Mortar Award. The second category is the Preservation Education Award for individuals or organizations that have been part of a historic interpretation project. The third category is the Advocacy Award, to include individuals or organizations that have gone above and beyond to save threatened resources. And the fourth category is Career Achievement, to include individuals who have an exemplary track record in the historic preservation or archaeology area. As a note, when we come to agenda item 14, the discussion regarding future topics for future agendas items, I will recommend a committee be created of the whole commission to send recommendations on how to improve and formalize the commission's annual award process, including potential new categories and how we get to the award process. Dr. Seabrand, before we get to the actual voting, is there anything you want to add?
I just did want to add that Dr. Kim Soo Chung was nominated by 2 separate commissioners, but it would only be one. It would only be one certificate and award. They were very similar. Everybody should have that as their backup to rate them all.
We do have, in fact, as Dr. Seabrand said, 9 nominees, including Dr. Soo Kim Chung, who received 2. We will take them in order listed on the agenda. When one of the commissioners' nomination is up for a vote, the commissioners are requested to briefly review why that person or organization was nominated, and then we will vote on the nomination. Also, at the bottom of each nomination is the proposed wording that staff has written that will be on the actual award. Please review, but remember, space is limited on the award. If you feel the change is critical, let Dr. Seabrand know. Any questions from the commissioner before we begin the vote? Please.
I have a question, Commissioner Roberts. When it comes to the voting process, and maybe this has been explained before, but how is the public engaged to vote?
They're not.
Oh, did I just hear that incorrectly?
This is just a vote of the...
Not for now, but for, sorry, for nominations. For nominations.
They would, and it's been rare, but since there is nothing in our bylaws that says only the commission nominate, even though it is the commission's award. It's sort of left open, and so we need to decide, is this going to be just nominations from the commissioners, or nomination from the city staff, or nominations from the general public, or what? We just need to formally decide that.
And for clarification, do these nominations, do these have input from the ones that we're voting on today? Do they have input from the public?
Yeah, I actually don't know, because the nominations themselves do not list, and I think that's one of the things we should add, but we're getting into a different topic.
Sure.
But we will find out today, for example, we have 9 nominations. The first one is Mayor Goodman. This is one that I submitted. And just real quickly, you've got the nomination in front of you, but a couple of quick bullet points. As this building, the federal building, turned 70, the federal government was saying, we don't need it anymore, it's going to go to surplus. And it could have gone in a whole bunch of different directions. It was at that point that then Mayor Oscar Goodman jumped in and said, we're going to save this building. And he came up with the idea to turn it into a museum, the Mob Museum, and went through the process. And the building not only was restored, it's now up to code, including earthquake standards. And as a slight tangent, the museum itself is working on a documentary honoring the building and the history of the building. So it was Mayor Goodman at that time that did the work. That's the nomination background. And at this point, then, as we go forward, we will be voting on each of these nominations. And I just, in reviewing the states or this commission's bylaws, the chair is not allowed to make a motion. So I don't know how I can make a motion in our bylaws. But if somebody would like to make that motion.
I'll be happy to make that motion, Mr. Chair.
All right, we have a motion. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. The second one is for retired U.S. Senator Richard Bryan. I don't know who nominated.
Speaker, for the record, I did. This is for his assistance in getting the Eldorado name back to the city, not back to the city, to give it to the city, and it is copyrighted and trademarked, and we have Senator Bryan to thank for that.
Okay. You have the nomination and some details in front of you. Further questions, comments?
Commissioner Laramie, I have a question. What category was this for?
Advocacy.
Advocacy. Okay, just one comment is we could potentially also add his advocacy for listing Las Vegas Academy, and he was really instrumental in the preservation of that property and neighborhood, so I think that could help the description. Unless you want to keep it to just focused on Eldorado, that's fine.
I prefer to keep it focused on Eldorado, and that's what he's been nominated for.
Okay.
All right, look for a motion.
Commissioner Surface, I'll make a motion to nominate Senator Bryan.
All right, we have a motion. Further discussion by the commission? General public? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously with those in attendance and the chair voting in favor. The next item is Commissioner Cedric Creer. And this is a nomination in what category? No. Which
Advocacy.
commissioner?
It's for advocacy. It's for advocacy,
Advocacy? And this was your nomination?
yes. Cedric not only is a tireless worker for his ward, but in particular, his creation or assistance with Commissioner Weekly, County Commissioner Weekly, in creating the Legacy Park, which is on the corner of Lake Mead and Martin Luther King, I believe, the southwest corner. It's a large park. It has several placards in it, metal brass plate placards of individuals in West Las Vegas that have been instrumental in doing things for the community. And at the same time, they decided to put playground equipment, so there's stuff for kids to do while their parents are viewing the placards in the park. And I think he continues to revive interest in that area of the city. He's been active with the 100 plan that he took off the shelf and revitalized a lot of the issues in that, which is a slow improvement to West Las Vegas with building a library, which ground is already broken, increasing the worth of the schools, adding to the health and the health opportunities, and also the recreational opportunities. And so I would like to I would move that Councilman Creer be nominated for an advocacy award.
Further discussion, question, comments? Further discussion, questions, comments?
Yeah, Commissioner Laramie, just a question. Could this park be considered for the bricks and mortar? I know that it's not, the preservation of a space, but
What's your question?
I think it could be considered for bricks and mortar as far as just,
It could be if somebody wants to nominate it next year. I mean, for this nomination right now?
can we not change that at this point if we wanted to do that as a commission?
Well, we're nominating what's in the back, or I'm sorry, you're voting on what's in the backup. So that specific nomination is for his advocacy for the park, not the bricks and mortar of it.
Okay, so we're purely voting on the nominations as written and...
Correct.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
I'm thinking about that. I don't know what forbids us from changing it.
Commissioner Beck, I think the issue is that it has to be posted, that this is what we're looking at, and we're looking at making a big change in it.
So if what we posted has a major error in it, we can't correct the error.
Is it an error though?
I'm just asking the question in that regard. If there was an error in this, the posting, we would have to either approve the error or deny it.
Yeah, we could have been.
I think the question is if there was an error and the board wanted to approve, then they would say approved with, like we just did with the report, with fixing that error.
Exactly.
But we can't change it for a completely new nomination for a category that wasn't submitted.
But it was done in error.
That the nomination was done in error?
Yes, it was accidentally checked the wrong box. Then if that was true, then we could change it.
No, because I'm looking at our council right now, because you have to vote for what's in the backup. You're not, and if there was an error, but it's not an error to have left it out. The nomination was submitted on advocacy for a person, not the bricks and mortar category.
It's broader than just the Legacy Park. It's his advocacy
Well, I'm not
throughout the
going to get
region.
frustrated here at this point with this Since there was no box checked, the commission has no sense of which is the proper category, but
I think there was a box check.
if the person feels that it's advocacy, then that's what we'll go with, and you made a motion to approve.
Yeah.
Further discussion? General public? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Commissioner Levine?
Yeah, I said aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously with the chair voting in favor of those in attendance.
Chairman, sorry, speaking for the record, the advocacy box was checked on his nomination?
I think it's because our backup doesn't show what nominations it's for.
It's on the attachment.
It should,
None of them, but I think we will simply take whoever is making the motion,
See,
we will go with what,
the attachment online actually does have it missing.
right. This document does not, so, but we're not going to get bogged down in, we will move forward with the next one, which is Sarah Abe. And who was the nominee here?
This was me. The nomination is for the Plaza Hotel and Casino marketing team. Sarah is the contact I identified. And the nomination really is just focused on the marketing team's efforts to really infuse their property's history with their business today. A lot of their campaign advertisements have a really nostalgic and kind of timeless feel that I think helps connect our community and especially our downtown visitors and residents to some of their emotional ties to the past area while still being really relevant to what the plaza really is today and kind of the modernization of that property. And also just acknowledging that the plaza has gone through some pretty significant remodeling over the past decade and invested in upgrading and modernizing its facilities without compromising its historic facade. And so this was an advocacy nomination.
Further questions from the commission? General public? If not, look for a motion.
Commissioner Beck, I move to approve.
Further discussion? General public? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Levine and Hotchkiss?
Aye.
Commissioner Levine? Hello?
Does does Levine reduce us from a quorum, or do we still have a quorum? Correct. All right.
I'm sorry, we still have a quorum.
I'll ask the question again. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries with the chair voting in favor. Thank you. Let's move on then to the next nominee, Commissioner Nancy Brune. And whose nomination was this? Please.
Mr. Chair, Todd Moody, this is my nomination. Floydland Park comes under the umbrella of parks in the city of Las Vegas, but it is unique both historically and naturally. Anyone who's been there knows that we have a variety of fowl. We have ducks, geese, peacocks. If you've been there recently, you would have seen the new baby great horned owls and burrowing owls. We have coyotes. It's just a pearl in Las Vegas. So last year, Councilwoman Brune secured passage of a resolution with the City Council to protect Floyd Lamb and its unique resources. That resolution limits programming to passive activities to place minimal stress on resources, to protect it from development, and ensures that the city will use its best efforts to limit noise and volume and to certain hours so that we can protect the natural and historic resources there. So I've nominated Councilwoman Brune for the Advocacy Award and move for approval on that.
Okay. Further discussion of the commission?
Commissioner Beck, I just really support this because things had started getting to be approved for anything, and her work really has helped keep that park what it was intended to be.
Great. General public? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Commissioner Levine?
Those opposed? Motion carries with the chair voting in favor. Move on to the next nominee, Roosevelt Fitzgerald. This is my nomination. Professor Fitzgerald taught at UNLV from 1971 until his death in 1996. He received his MA degree from the University of Notre Dame starting in 1971 and was a leader at UNLV for many decades in ethnic studies and just all around university life. He dedicated his life to teaching. Throughout his career, he took every opportunity to his classes, his writing, public presentation to share his deep knowledge of Las Vegas and his personal experience with others. So that's the reason why suggested and the award could be placed at UNLV in special collections. Would look for a motion.
Commissioner Laramie, I motion to approve.
We have a motion for the discussion of the commission. General public? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Commissioner Levine?
Those opposed?
Commissioner Levine, are you there?
Motion carries with the chair voting in favor. Let's move on to the next agenda item. This is Dr. Sue Kim Chung, the same agenda item actually. Dr. Chung has two nominations. The commissioner outside of myself that made this nomination?
That was me, Commissioner Laramie.
Please.
I nominated Sue Kim generally for all of her work that she's done through UNLV Library Special Collections. She's been there since 1999 and just really does an amazing job, both with her work collecting history, but also in making it available and accessible to the public. I specifically focused my nomination on her work with documenting the history of Las Vegas showgirls and entertainment. She's just really helped bring this history, I think, to the public in a variety of ways. She's organized and moderated a handful of events. She contributes to media coverage and has really worked very hard with a lot of the showgirls and dancers who are still here in the community to learn from them and incorporate their experiences into her archival work.
And my nomination simply echoes what the vice chair has written. Further discussion on this? Well, first we would need a motion.
Commissioner Laramie, I motion to approve.
Further discussion by the commission? General public? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Jack Levine on the phone, aye.
That was Commissioners Levine and Hotchkiss voting aye.
The chair votes in favor. The motion passes. Let's go to the last one, which is a preservation education nomination for Boyd Productions. And this is from Dr. Seabrand.
It's from the city, from our staff. So they are, if you're not familiar, Boyd Productions since 2018 have been creating documentaries to tell the story of the 1905 founding and of Las Vegas up through right now. They're working on the 1960s, soon to start the 1970s, and throughout that time they work very closely with Chairman Stodel and myself and our other staff in order to make sure that these productions are as historically accurate as possible and that they stick to the city of Las Vegas and what made the city it is today. And just through their dedication to creating those documentaries, feel that they deserve award and a recognition.
Questions, comments? Would look for a motion.
Commissioner Cosgrove, motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Further discussion by the commission? General public? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Commissioner, is that Commissioner Levine and Hotchkiss?
Levine, aye. Hotchkiss, aye.
Thank you.
All right, those are the nominations and the votes and the award winners. And again, take a quick look at the specifically the ones that you have nominated at the bottom where it says for staff use only. That's what's going to appear in the awards, and they all look pretty solid to me. But take a look and see if there's something that needs to be adjusted in some way, and please let Dr. Seabrant know as soon as possible. Anything else on the nominations? Okay,
Can I
hearing
just,
none.
through you, Mr. Chair, can I ask staff how those who have been nominated will be informed?
We send emails.
Okay.
Or they get a telephone call from somebody watching right now. Let's move on then to the next agenda item, which is the discussion for possible action regarding approval of funding up to the amount of $17,000 for members of the commission to attend the July 31st, August 4th, 2024 National Alliance of Preservation Commissions, their 2024 forum in West Palm Beach, Florida. Dr. Seabrand.
Thank you, Seabrand, for the record. So this is, we had discussed earlier in the year of who wanted to attend any of our upcoming conferences, and there are 5 commissioners and staff that would be, if approved, going to the this conference. And the funding is up to $17,000. That probably won't be the final number. We just asked for that because we don't have the prices for the airfare yet. So it will most likely come down.
And how many commissioners and how many people will be going?
So for this one, it's 3 commissioners, 2 staff.
Okay. Would look for a motion.
Commissioner Laramie, I motion to approve.
Further discussion by the commission? General public? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Levine.
Those opposed?
Hotchkiss votes aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries with the chair voting in favor. Thank you all. Let's move on to the next agenda item, which I have as 24-0205 HPC 1, discussion for possible action regarding approval of funding up to $18,000 for members of the commission to attend the October 28th, 30th, 2024 National Trust Preservation Leadership Forum, Path Forward. The conference will be held in Orleans, Louisiana. Dr. Seabrand?
Thank you, Seabrand, for the record. And this is the second conference, would be for 4 commissioners and 2 staff to attend. Again, the amount isn't the final amount. We asked for up to $18,000 because we don't, like I said, don't know what airfares are, and that also is most likely to come down.
All right, just a note on both of these, 8 and 9, both of these conferences, what we'll be looking for from those attending, the commissioners specifically, is a written report submitted to Dr. Seabrand about what you can share from this for the rest of the commissioners that weren't able to attend, and if there are any particular handouts that are distributed at that point that would be useful to the commissioners who are unable to attend, and Dr. Seabrand will take that material and provide it to the commissioners that were unable to attend. So that's for both conferences. One we have 3 members of the commission, and the other one this one we have 4 members. And again, there are city rules regarding travel, what expenses are paid for, and what you can and can't do. For example, it's my understanding if this was a trip to Paris, you could not extend it for another 2 weeks and go to the Ukraine, so to speak. But there are specific city rules on travel, and they've been both. We've adhered to those rules in the past, but it's just a reminder, and Dr. Seabrand will provide that information as well. So I would look for a motion.
Commissioner Larry, may I motion to approve?
All those in further discussion of the commission? General public? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Hotchkiss aye. Levine, aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries with the chair voting in favor. Thank you all. Look forward to two great conferences. I'm glad we're able to fund those, and I'm especially glad that commissioners are taking the time to attend these important conferences. Let's move on to agenda item 10, and that is 24-0211-HPC1, discussion for possible action regarding approval of a streetlight sign designed identifying the John S. Park neighborhood, generally bounded by East Charleston Boulevard, South 9th Street, East Oakey Boulevard, and Las Vegas Boulevard. Dr. Seabrand?
Seabrand, for the record, so this is a sign that would be installed within the greater neighborhood of John S. Park, including the historic core. And since the sign would be going up into the historic core, that the applicant has is required to get approval from the HPC.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Eric Kroll. I live at 1240 South 8th Street, and I'm also the Vice President of the John S. Park neighborhood. We've worked with the Neighborhood Services Department to get funding through a Neighborhood Partners Grant to allow us to develop this design and bring it before you today. We're following some precedent that has been set in both the Beverly Green and McNeil neighborhoods. We're asking to create a 24 by 24 inch double-sided aluminum road sign with a graffiti coating to help keep it as beautiful as the day it is installed. Down here at the podium, I do have some visuals that I'd like to share if that's possible.
Put it on the square there. It is.
It is, it's here. So you'll see that the Beverly Green sign is that 24 by 24 inch square, and the traffic engineering division of the city would be the team that would install this using hardware provided by them. The sign itself would be generated utilizing those funds from the grant. We did put this out to a vote in our neighborhood, so we've had a committee formed to help get ideas for this sign. We've had several neighborhood meetings, and we've had some polling in person and on a Google form. So of 46 respondents in the neighborhood, 34 voted for the design that we're bringing for you today, so that's about 73%. I think that's a pretty strong indication that we have backing from our neighbors. We're also looking, as Dr. Seabrandt said, to put this within the entire boundary of the neighborhood, not just within the historic district. You'll see the orange dots indicate where we would like to have these signs placed. They would be on light poles, just as in McNeil and in Beverly Green. And albeit a little difficult on the large screen, there are some indicators running parallel to each street, so you can see which street would have a view either direction of that signage. We have been, as I said, we have been working with traffic engineering. They identified a few locations just within the historic district. However, we are asking for your approval of the locations throughout the entire zone, and we would allow traffic engineering to redline any of those locations that were deemed not suitable. These have been viewed from the road and from the sidewalk. Each of these locations was selected because there is no signage. There's 39 in total, Mr. Chair. These locations were selected because there's no other signage on the pole at this time, and there's no signage on adjacent poles. We also took into consideration not wanting to obstruct any school zone signs or stop signs that are nearby, but we do want to maximize the value to our neighbors. There is a volunteer hours matching component to this grant, and the limited number of locations currently agreed upon with traffic engineering would it would be much lower than the volunteer hours that have been put forth already. So again, we'd like to really show the value. A lot of our neighbors have contributed to this. And so that is the design. You can see that we are highlighting that the district was established in 1931 with the addition of the Park Place neighborhood. The three-color Bauhaus design takes us further into the late 50s and 60s, which is when this neighborhood was continuing to develop. And using the historic guidelines that have been recently adopted, we are highlighting the Tudor, the minimal traditional, mid-century house styles, and you'll also see some roof lines in the background from the recently added pines at John S. Park. So we're really trying to highlight the development and character of our neighborhood over time, while showing that this continues to be a traditionally residential neighborhood for residents of the city of Las Vegas.
Question? Please.
I'm missing the word neighborhood on the sign. Do you feel it wasn't necessary?
The artists that we worked with wanted to highlight the person, and we would be open to having the word neighborhood on here. When we had this out to vote, that was not something that came up in public comment, but I would happy to have that as a condition for approval.
I just would echo that particular one. John S. Park has contributed, but we're talking about the neighborhood, and that's what the signs are for. Further questions? Please.
Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Jack Levine. Oh.
Go ahead, Jack.
Jack Levine, for the record. I'm curious, because it's true at Beverly Green as well, that there's no, like, City of Las Vegas logo or indication that the sponsor paid for it by the city, through the Historic Preservation Commission. Should there also be a city logo on there? I know we've talked before about consistency throughout all the different historic signs that have been put up, all the markers that were put up on the west side, street level road markers, those all have the city logo on them. Beverly Green did not, this does not. It's something I think should be there.
Dr. Seabrandt, was any discussion about that that we came up with Beverly Green? I think it's a good point that Commissioner raises, but has there been any discussion about that at all?
No, there has not.
Okay. I mean, there was no negative, so All right, any further questions? Please, Moody.
Commissioner Moody, this is super cool. You did great work on this. You've made our life easy by getting approvals. I think it makes sense to put neighborhood on there, which may mean you need to move established up. But I'm sure your graphic designer can figure that out, but thanks. I think this is great.
Thank you so much, Commissioner.
Any further questions or comments, please?
Commissioner Roberts, great job on the presentation. Thank you. Question about so it's like like an amalgamation of all different types of architecture, kind of superimposed over each other. One concern, and it's a concern about the level of detail. 24 inches by 24 inches could be substantially large enough, but are we concerned that those tight lines are going to be lost in the printing and turn into like a blob or something like that? Is that a concern that we have?
I think that prior to actually producing these in mass, there is budget available where we could produce a one-off and provide that to traffic engineering and confirm that this is not just going to blend together. We have suggested to our artists that we create some different thicknesses of lines to properly outline each individual style and perhaps soften some of the detail on the houses so that the actual outline of each style is more visible, and that way we can really see the four distinct characteristics.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think it's a good idea. At my first glance, before you explained it, I was questioning where this house was. Like, I don't think I've ever seen that one before, and it looks like those might be some additions that may not, you know what I mean? Anyways, so that's one comment. The other one, and I don't know if this is possibly could be handled in the small redesign with this step, adding the word neighborhood and possibly a city logo or who knows. But there's always, in my experience, personal experience with people living in the John S. Park neighborhood, everyone thinks that they're in the historic district, and you guys probably know about this very well. I wonder if there's an opportunity here not to exacerbate the confusion, but if there is going to be a change, could signs in the certain area have a green dot, whatever, historic, the word historic there or something versus the other one? Is this an opportunity to distinguish between John S. Park as a whole and the specifically historic designated section of John S. Park?
So when we brought this idea to our neighborhood, a lot of people were concerned that we would focus exclusively on the historic district.
Sure.
I felt that it was very important to market the broader neighborhood as a whole. There are some houses that have unfortunately become non-contributing, especially on the western boundary of the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. So to create a sense of place with something like this, I think is very important to get buy-in from the community to improve and develop our area overall. And as other additions of the neighborhood outside of Park Place and the Vega Verde tract age into the ability to become historic, I would find that we would have additional cost long-term to update these signs and identify that the historic district has expanded. So I think having something uniform would be imperative. What I would be opening to offering you is one of the projects that we did for our volunteer hours is a resident and self-proclaimed history buff walked through our entire neighborhood, worked with some different collections at the UNLV Special Collection and had interviewed neighbors, and we've created a little bit more of a neighborhood history that at some point we would like to turn over to this commission and to Dr. Seabrandt for purposes of your own use, so that you can see different ownership history, prominent residents, or perhaps different events that have happened in these homes. So I do love the idea, but I think that we have a way to press into the future, but also expand this historic district and show how important a historic district is.
Appreciate the comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Couple quick questions. First of all, really the idea of having the word neighborhood in there is solid, and having one of the challenges that we have now met, the city has now met, is there were some neighborhoods that were just declaring themselves unilaterally, we're historic, and putting up signs. Whereas this is a historical legitimate, but it's clear what you are suggesting of having the John S. Park neighborhood. I mean, that's wider than just the specific, that's a real benefit. That said, putting the city seal on it does make it official. And I would seriously, I don't know how we would move forward on that. It would have to get some approval from the city, but that's, so putting the city seal on it is a positive, putting the word neighborhoods on a positive. Now just a couple of nickel and dime things. That sun looks pretty yellow. The one that we have looks pretty orange. Which is it?
I think the digitally rendered copy that you have available on your screen, if we could put that back, would be the official submittal. Due to the lighting down here and being a printed page, I think there's a difference, but this is the design, and this would be much more indicative of what would be hanging in the neighborhood.
So a sort of a neon pink?
Mm-hmm. Yep, it would be a bright fuchsia, an orange, and yellow, along with the green for the trees.
Okay. Then the other, now that that's been established, the other one is, I was quite taken aback, quite frankly, with the three-story structure. It just seemed to be out of place for me in a neighborhood design. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering, what are they supposed to represent in the background?
So the three green structures in the background are representative of the pine trees.
No, I'm sorry, to the far right.
The housing.
Buildings.
Not the 8th Street. So, hi, Ray Lathrop. I'm the John S. Park neighborhood president. I live at 1302 South 6th Street. One of the things that our neighborhood really considered was not only the diversity of housing within the district, within the neighborhood association. There's about 400 homes in the neighborhood association, while there's only about a little bit more than 100 of them are inside the historic district. 2 years ago, we had 9 new homes built on 8th Street, and I know that was very controversial, but we have really wanted to make sure that those new residents feel included in the concept of the neighborhood. All of them have joined the neighborhood and have been very engaged in contributing members of our neighborhood and our community, and we thought it would be really important to include all the housing types.
The grant allows for funding for up to 67. I think that might be a little bit dense and become a burden to the neighborhood, and I think that in the future, as signage needs for traffic engineering develop, we want to leave some locations for them to put up their street signs and their instructional signs as well.
So ultimately, the traffic department will be determining that final amount.
Commissioner Beck, I also support putting neighborhood on here. The reason is, if I didn't know anything and I saw this sign, I would be looking for the park. It's just a coincidence because of the name. But anyway, I think it's just very important.
Thank you, Commissioner.
All right, so there's been a couple of ideas. There have been a couple of ideas put forward, everything from potentially adding to the right-hand corner, left-hand corner, a city seal. Another idea is to put the word neighborhood on neighborhood or hoods. Well, I guess it's, aren't there, didn't you mention just one neighborhood?
Mm-hmm. It is one neighborhood association.
Okay. And then the colors, and then the potential of having some sort of an indicator in the area as to where it is, in fact, historic, that there would be a little button or something that would add to that. So those are the three elements that we've had, the commission has talked about. Out of that, we need to move forward, and if somebody's ready to make a motion to either include one or all of those things or none of the above, let's move forward. Beck?
I so move to add all three. Commissioner Perdue.
Commissioner Beck, Could I know what the three are? Could you state them?
The three are, at first, at the top of the list would be adding neighborhood so it's not the John S. Park, it's the John S. Park neighborhood. The second is potentially adding the city seal. The only issue with that is we would potentially need to get the permission of the city to actually do that, because I'm sure that there's our rules and regs covering that. And then the issue is whether or not we want to add some sort of a dot or something to indicate the historic part of the John S. Park neighborhood. We can take those either as one motion, as has been presented, or we can take them individually. So we have a motion before us.
Mr.
to
Chair
do all
and
three,
Commissioners, I'm sorry, before you do vote on that, I would just ask you to consider that because the historic district and the neighborhood at large butt up and share a street, and you have street signs or lamp posts on a side of the street that is in the historic district, but that signage would be visible to the non-historic district, that request may become convoluted and slightly difficult to honor the true value of. So I would ask that if we do vote on this, that maybe we could remove that condition. Again, I'm happy to find some way to further highlight that there is a historic district, but I think, again, over time, we're going to see the need to update these signs at a cost, and that you're not going to be able to define clear boundaries due to which sides of the street the existing infrastructure lives on or is at.
Well, let me ask, it seems that there is unanimity, and I'm just doing sort of an informal head count, there's a unanimity on adding the word neighborhood.
Yes,
is there any issue with the folks on that particular one?
No, none whatsoever.
I would ask the person...
I'm in agreement, Levine.
I would ask that the person who made the motion, if we could rescind the motion and have a motion that just included the word neighborhood. Trying to move forward. The question of the city seal is also something that needs to be, please.
So, this sign project is funded by the Neighborhood Partner Fund, and I asked city staff here about the precedent of how many neighborhoods have been using this funding for signage or have installed signage in the past, and there's no indication potentially that there's been a city seal placed on any of them. Maybe.
Good afternoon. This is Ann Kilponen, Senior Neighborhood Outreach Specialist with the Neighborhood Services Department. We haven't had this city seal on prior signage, and I know that there are branding specifications that our Office of Communications has. So, I mean, it is something we could potentially look into, but I'm not too sure whether that would be something that we could move forward on.
Thank you. We, as you know, there are, I think, in reading the city sign ordinances, there's, I think, 8 or 9 single-space spaces that the city has focused on the challenges and questions regarding putting signs up, all kinds of signs. And up until this past year, there were various departments in the city that were unilaterally putting up signs indicating historic sites. That has now changed. If it's going to have historic in some way, it's got to come before this commission. So it's almost what we've done in the past. We've got to follow the city rules, and I'm sure that there are rules regarding a city seal, but because historic neighborhoods signs have not had a city seal in the past, does not mean we have to use that as the precedent. But we do have a motion before us, please.
I will amend my motion so that it just is for the consideration of adding the word neighborhood. I would also like to recommend that the possibility of either the alternative of using the city seal, which is somewhat complicated to design and put in a small space, or possibly with the growth of historical neighborhoods in our city, we might want to consider for the HPC to have something designed that designates that it is an official historical community approved by the city. So we have our own seal, then we don't have to go to the city to ask permission, and it would be cleaner and easier to be read, and it would be something that could be used over and over with neighborhoods that get this status.
All right, so let's, if I understand right, we are going to, the motion has been amended to simply add the word neighborhood.
Correct.
And that's the motion. The other is a discussion issue. Right now, we're only talking about adding the word neighborhood. So we have a motion to accept the signs as they are, simply adding the word neighborhood under parks, or some way to adjust that. Further discussion?
Just real quick, Commissioner
Levine.
Roberts. Oh,
I would second.
please, Commissioner Levine.
Jack Levine, I would second that motion, just neighborhood alone.
Okay. Commissioner Roberts?
Commissioner Roberts, just real quick, I just want to make sure that we're not going to be behind the 8 ball again when it comes to the determination or the labeling using the word historic properly, whether the city seal makes that determination in and of itself, or if we're going to add an additional flag sign or appendage to this or mounted near it with the term historic or for only the historic areas. I'm just concerned about approving something now and then not having the foresight of what the plan is for hopefully the near future to properly help identifying this historic neighborhood and the areas of it as officially historic.
All right. So,
Commissioner Roberts, the Beverly Green sign that we have before us does not feature the word historic either. So we are trying to keep the consistency in the design and what has been produced.
I appreciate that. The issue that I have is actually specifically with all existing signs, specifically the ones I think you even identified, McNeil neighborhood, which, as lovely as it is not historic. Although no one would know that because there are signs at all entrances to that neighborhood that tell you with the city seal on it that it is historic. This is erroneous and it is very confusing, frustrating for me, and I'm just trying to help avoid that in the future. So again, just to reiterate, I don't have a problem with the motion. Adding the term neighborhood, I believe, is going to help aid in any potential confusion, but thinking forward here about the future and what we have done in the past, I'm essentially trying to learn from the mistakes of the past so that we can address them in the future. And I do believe that there is room to add, that's a big pole that these are going to be attached to, right? So there's going to be room right below it or above it, maybe even adding a couple more locations to help better identify the historic areas of the neighborhood, which I think is very important. Again, as you guys probably know much better than me, living in the neighborhood, there is lots of confusion as to are you in a historic area or not, and people's, we want to help clarify that at any opportunity we have, I believe.
Yeah.
all right, so we do have a motion before us. Any further comments?
Jack Levine for the record. You have to remember that the John S. Park neighborhood is actually just a political construct of the city. We drew some boundaries on the map. It was named after the John S. Park Elementary School, but it does incorporate, I believe, 9 different subdivisions, north of Oakey to Charleston, Las Vegas Boulevard to 9th Street. And so I think it's very important that we have the word neighborhood to designate, and this was a project of the whole neighborhood. And I agree with them that perhaps in the future we can further designate make it more obvious what parts are actually historic district, but yet would be to turn the entire thing into a historic district.
All right, the motion before us, please, go ahead.
Commissioner Beck, one of the things that I think is getting missed in this discussion about historic is that this is coming from the neighborhood association. It's not coming from our commission. And this is what the neighborhood association has invested their time in. And they're trying to solidify the neighborhood as a community. And So I find for us to come and tell them, oh, you have to determine historic, in the future or whatever, I see problematic. It's just my stand on it.
I think not buried, but it's called the John S. Park neighborhood. John S. Park is a historic figure. So I think within that, I understand where Commissioner Roberts is going, and if there was some way to be able to identify the particular elements of the historic community, and potentially we could. But for today, we have the history of John S. Park in the neighborhood, and I think that's a major step forward by the association. So I will call for the questions. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Jack Levine, aye. Patrick Guest votes aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries with the chair voting in favor, and thank you for all your work.
Thank you.
And look forward to seeing the sign. Who's responsible for maintaining them? The city or the association?
There's not been any discussion up to this point. There is budget and there is plan to provide extra signs to the city for maintenance purposes if they become damaged over time. But we don't know of any precedent in the other areas for maintenance or a system for that.
One other, this is a minor question. How high will will the signs be? I mean, obviously above arm's reach.
Correct.
Please.
Hello, this is Ann Kilponen again from Senior Neighborhood Outreach Specialist with Neighborhood Services. Technically, the association is required to maintain the sign, but we are doing it to the Public Works sign standards so that, should something like graffiti happen, that while crews are out, they may be in a position to be able to address that since it's consistent with the signage that they have in the neighborhood.
I guess always something will happen, and a sign will get broken or just accidentally or whatever. Is going to be up to the association to put a ladder up and replace that, or would that be Public Works?
This is Ann Kilponen, Senior Neighborhood Outreach Specialist with Neighborhood Services Department, and this is through a Neighborhood Partners Fund grant. So they were awarded $5,000 for the purchase of signs, and so essentially, if a sign were to get broken, the association would be looking at probably having to apply for a new grant in order to get additional signs.
Okay, all right, thank you so much. All right, I appreciate all the effort with the John S. Park Association. Glad to see it's back energized again.
Thank you all. I appreciate your time.
Okay. I'm up to agenda item 11. All right. Agenda 11 is a report by the Community Development Department regarding the director's update. Dr. Seabrand? Seth?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Seth Floyd for the record. I do not have any updates today, and I'm going to pass it to Diane.
All right. And then let's move on to item 12, report by the Community Development Department regarding the project update list, which you see before you. Dr. Seabrand?
Thank you, Seabrand, for the record. So our surveys are either completed or still in progress. The City Council did approve adding the Christensen House to the Las Vegas Historic Property Register, so that is now officially on both the National Register and our own local register. May 8th is the plaque ceremony for 1425 Francis Avenue. That will be at 1:30 p.m. We will send out a reminder if anybody would like to also attend, and all we'll be doing is we'll be giving the owner a plaque that she can mount on the exterior of her property. The updates to both the Old Mormon Ford and Historic West Side School are both in progress. And we were going to have the design guidelines meeting. It was supposed to be last week, but we had to reschedule that, and we're still working with Ward 3 on, and the neighborhood associations with the rescheduling of that for a date. Just last time, as the reminder about the free hands-on workshop in Boulder City. If you know any licensed contractors that would like to attend, there are still openings. And again, contact Michael Meza in Boulder City directly. We do have two of our big events coming up next month. So May 11th is Eldorado Days Parade, and so we have our little contingent of commissioners that will be representing the HPC in the parade. We are signed up for it, and we will get, Teresa and I will get with each of you that have signed up to arrange the meeting place and time. But if you're not going to participate, you can be a spectator, and it starts at 10 a.m. on 4th Street. In addition, the 1960s movie, documentary, The City of Las Vegas, that started in 2018, will be Saturday, May 18th, 6 p.m. at the historic 5th Street School, and those invitations will be sent to you next week. As far as the parking situation and where you'll need to go in order to watch the film. We start with the reception, and then the film should start about 7:15. If you can't make it, KCLV will be playing it they will be premiering it on television as well as other streaming platforms at the same time. So if you can't make it to the live in-person event, you can watch it on television, and it will be replayed throughout the month and for here on out. They will also be playing the first 5 movies as a movie marathon before the premiere starts at 7. Remember that our May meeting date has changed. It's May 29th. Make sure you note that on your calendar, same time. And this is so that we can have our awards ceremony and the luncheon in the Now Cafe next door. So May 29th is the May meeting. And also, we added this additional slide in the updates, and this is for pending items. So apologies if there had been confusion on how future agenda items work, so I just did want to clarify it. So each item is noted, and we collect the relevant information as soon as we can. There are, however, many factors involved that I understand the commission may not be aware of, so I just wanted to make sure that there's an understanding of how quickly or perhaps how slowly they get on the agenda. There usually is a need for meetings or discussions interdepartmentally or with outside individuals or organizations. We are reliant on the availability of others' schedules. Meetings are often changed or delayed. That may result in more meetings. There are items that may need to be researched, and it depends on how quickly we can get to those items, how many resources we have, our workload, and the available time we have. Some things can be done quickly, but some do take time. We also have internal deadlines from other departments that impact how quickly we can get something on the agenda. So just wanted to have everybody assured that we have the items in our queue, so it's not necessary to request them again. We will have this slide at each meeting so everybody knows where we are with these pending items as we move forward, and taking into consideration the factors I just went over. And we are waiting on the final renderings for the clubhouse over at Lorenzi Park, working on proposals and researching on other items. And the Huntridge Theater, we will get our next update at the June meeting. And that's everything I have.
Questions from the commission?
Chair Sodal, this is Commissioner Hotchkiss.
Yes.
What time is the meeting on May 29?
It's still at noon. It's still a noon meeting.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments? Move on then to the next agenda item, HPC 124-0206, reports by historic and archaeological resources that are in the local media. The agenda item is there along with the Great Links. No questions. We'll move on to agenda item 14. This is discussion regarding topics for future agenda items. Comments made during this portion of the agenda by individual members of the commission shall refer solely to proposals for future agenda items and any discussion shall be limited to first whether or not such proposed items are within the purview of the commission, and second, whether such proposed items shall be placed on a future agenda. No discussion regarding the substance of any such proposed topic shall occur, and no action shall be taken. Does any commissioner have an item that they would like to put on a future agenda?
Yes, Commissioner Laramie?
Yes.
I would just like to, I guess, suggest or ask the Legal Aid Center recently had a community meeting with their proposed design for the bank building. And although I understand that they're not required to come here or receive any direction from us, I think it would be a really great gesture if they presented and, you know, took opinions from the commissioners if they had any. And so if we could invite them to come, if they were willing, that would be great.
I'd like to put on the next available agenda an action item to create a committee of the whole where each commissioner can send in ideas for our annual award process, covering 2 or 3 points here. Review the existing categories and determine if the commission should keep the existing award categories and current definitions that we have for those categories, and whether or not we should add any new categories. Second, provide a description of what the award nominees should have in that regard, and decide. And fundamentally, I think this commission needs to decide formally and set a rule whether or not the nominations should come from the general public, city staff, anybody, or from the Historic Preservation Commission. And if they should only come from the commission itself. Number 4, decide if there's only one winner or multiple winners in each category. We just need to determine that. We have no rules governing our nomination process or the awarding process. And if there are anything else in the award process the commissioners think we need to change, I simply suggest that we put this as an action item on the next agenda so we can have this done well in advance of April of next year and actually have an approved process that could be included in our bylaws. This commission has 2 sets of rules. They obviously, we have 3 sets, I guess, but they all flow from the city ordinances. There's a particular ordinance that governs us. We also have our own set of bylaws that include things like we will follow Robert's Rules of Orders, and including that the chair can't make a motion. And then, of course, we just have the city rules, for example, on travel and how that's handled. So we are a product of the city and follow the rules, and I could also include the state since we follow the open meeting law. But it's important that we take a look at our existing process for the nominations, for the awards, and also at the same time we can look at our bylaws, and Dr. Seabrand's going to send a copy of those bylaws to each of us to take a look at that. So any further agenda items? Number 15, citizen participation. Public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters within the jurisdiction of the commission. No subject may be acted upon by the commission unless that subject is on the agenda and is scheduled for action. If you wish to be heard, come forward and give your name for the record. The amount of discussion on any single subject, as well as the amount of time any single speaker is allowed, may be limited. Would anybody like to speak at this point? Hearing and seeing none, thank you all. We are adjourned. 1:29. Thank you for those on the telephone. And I left the stack of books. You know, at your next meeting, if